Hi. Before going to video, please subscribe to my channel for more interesting stuff. Story from r/no sleep. Episode 5. Posted BYU Carlb 1961. I'm an actress on the set of a low-budget slasher film. I think they're really killing off my co-stars. Part 2. For Part 1. Please check the link in the description box. The next 4 weeks were probably the busiest of my life. While juggling my job and personal life, what little I had of one, on the side, I was also been driven down to the studio Ray worked for. He was kind enough to pay my taxi fare after hearing about my transportation issues, for 6 hours a day for rehearsals and script readings with my co-stars while Ray and his associates, who I never met, went about pre-production on the film. That was where I got to meet the 5 other young actors and actresses I would be working with for the next couple of months. There was Timothy, a rather cute teeny bopper heartthrob type guy from Chicago who was going to be playing, well, Timothy, my character's love interest and the hero of the story. Like me, he had a rather rocky childhood and had come out west for a fresh start. There was also Seth, a slightly overweight red-headed guy with glasses from Pittsburgh who was cast as Seth, the token geek/socially awkward loser in the group. He had been working in LA as a professional extra for several years and this was his first significant speaking role. Next was Tyrese, a tough but cocky young African-American from Harlem. A reformed ex-gang member, he'd come to Los Angeles to pursue a career as a rap artist. He'd only signed on to the film in order to secure financing for studio time so he could record an album. He played Tyrese, the token minority character. Then there was Marie, an absolutely beautiful French-Canadian girl from Montreal who had only been in LA for a few months. She'd come out here looking for work in order to support her mother and mentally disabled younger sister back home. She played Marie, the sexpot/nympho all the guys want to get with, which was about as far removed as humanly possible from the real Marie's sweet and rather chaste demeanor. Lastly, there was Madison, or, as she preferred to be called, Mad, a sullen, surly goth girl with dyed black hair from Louisville, Kentucky. She kept mostly to herself so I never learned much about her. She played Madison, the, you guessed it, antisocial goth girl of the group. We got to know each other over those 4 weeks and gradually became something like friends in real life. Sometimes we'd hang out together after rehearsing, go out for pizza or to see a movie. We joked about how stereotypical our characters were and how cliched and lame the plot was. Like me, they had all signed up to do it just for the paycheck and in the hopes that the movie would be a launching pad to bigger roles and better projects. Like me, they had also been forced to sign non-disclosure agreements and been asked to turn over their phones, which we all found strange, even a little unsettling. Seth told us it was probably intentional just to get us into the right paranoid state of mind for our characters, enforced method acting, he called it. We somewhat hesitantly agreed with him. After all, we had been hired to work on a legitimate feature film being produced by a respected producer. I had even looked up Ray online the night after signing the agreement and he was highly regarded in the film business and had produced some critically acclaimed independent films, one of which had been nominated for an Academy Award a few years back. Surely they weren't planning on doing anything untoward to us. The day finally came when we all were to embark on a trip to our filming location. Ray had us meet him in the studio parking lot at 9:30 in the morning where a black SUV was waiting for us along with a nondescript black RV we presumed was carrying the film crew and their equipment. We packed up our bags and set off, Ray driving us, the RV following behind. The drive was rather uneventful, if kind of boring. The resort area where we were filming was a 5-hour drive out of Los Angeles, in the northeast center of California, in a national forest on the east side of the Sierra Nevada mountain range. It was actually a pretty well-known place, but I'm not going to tell you the name of it for various reasons. Still, you might have heard of it. We made small talk with each other to pass the time, Ray mostly staying silent as he drove. Gradually, we moved uphill, and barren desert scrubland gave way to fields of snow, which was shocking to see after having become acclimated to the warm, arid climate of Southern California. Then up ahead of us, we see the forest and the mountains beyond. We were all in awe as they came into view, struck speechless by the majesty of them. I don't think any of us had seen mountains before, and they were truly a breathtaking spectacle to behold, beautiful, imposing, and a little scary. We drove through the forest and up into the foothills, the highway winding up through a pass in the mountains. We drove through a small resort town and continued on to the lodge where we would be staying and shooting, which was nestled high amidst the snow-covered slopes. The lodge was also a pretty well-known place, but again, I'm not naming names. It was a huge, sprawling building, 4 stories, but still dwarfed by the immense peaks that surrounded it. Ray had explained to us that it was closed to the public for the next 6 months for renovations, and he had made a deal with the owners, so we pretty much had the run of the place for the course of our shooting schedule. As we arrived, I was surprised to see there was someone waiting for us. A black limousine was parked out front. Ray pulled to a stop and the RV followed suit behind him. "Okay, kids, we have arrived," he announced, opening his door. We got out after him. I was shocked by how cold and dry the air was after living in the balmy year-round temperatures of LA. I began to shiver in my thin jacket, thankful that Ray had told us all in advance to pack warm clothing. The others were looking around, taking in the snowy desolation all around us, breath steaming from their mouths. The resort town we had passed through on the way was over a mile below us. I realized for the first time how isolated we were and felt a shiver that wasn't just from the cold. Ray was walking toward the idling limousine. He knocked on the driver's side window and the driver, a tall, expressionless man in a chauffeur's uniform and cap, got out wordlessly and went to open the rear passenger door. Out stepped a large, imposing man in a dark suit. He was middle-aged, and had a severe face and dark, piercing eyes. His complexion was coarse, his hair streaked with gray. He looked around with an expression I can only describe as imperious, as if he expected the mountains to bow down before him. I felt a tremor of dread go through me as his forbidding eyes landed on the 6 of us standing in a group beside the SUV. Something about the impassive, dead way he favored us with his piercing eyes and humorless face made my blood run cold. Even Ray seemed a little intimidated by his presence. He greeted him almost funnily. "Sergey. I'm so glad you could make it. I hope you had a pleasant drive." He extended a slightly trembling hand, which the large man ignored, instead removing a large cigar from one coat pocket and lighting it with a gold lighter he produced from the other. He had a lot of gold, jeweled rings on his right hand. Ray turned to us, grinning a little too forcefully, and introduced the large man. "Guys, I would like you to meet Sergey. He's my..." Ray seemed to hunt for the word, "my distributor. The one who's going to be releasing the film." We all murmured greetings. Sergey favored us each with a passing glance, then spoke in a heavy Russian accent, although his English was very fluent. "It is a pleasure to meet such lovely young people as yourselves. You are about to embark on a great endeavor. The picture you will make will be groundbreaking. It will be revolutionary, historic, even. You should all feel privileged to be a part of such an undertaking. To a select few people, you will be remembered as stars. I wish you the best of luck." He finished addressing us, nodded, then gestured to Ray, who walked away with him a short distance to confer in private. My fellow actors and I exchanged bewildered, "What was that all about?" glances. "Okay," Timothy said, dumbfounded. "That was weird," Seth muttered. "Yeah, no shit," Tyrese replied. "What did he mean when he said he wished us the best of luck?" Marie asked in her lightly French-accented English, looking nervous. None of us answered. None of us had a clue. I watched Ray speak quietly with the Russian man named Sergey. I tried to listen to what they were talking about, but their voices were too low. Something the Russian man had said was bothering me, making me feel distinctly uneasy. "To a select few people, you will be remembered as stars. I'm an actress on the set of a low-budget slasher film. I think they're really killing off my co-stars. Part-3. Ray finished speaking with the large Russian man, who made his way back to his limousine and climbed into the back. His driver closed his door, then returned to the driver's seat. Ray made his way back over to us. "What were you guys talking about?" asked Mad. "Oh, just sorting out a few last details on the distribution deal. Nothing any of you need to concern yourselves with," he told her casually, then looked around the group. "So you kids ready?" "Hey!" Seth exclaimed as if just realizing something. "When do we get to meet the director of this thing anyway?" It only seemed to dawn on us all then as Seth asked the question we should have been asking ourselves, that we had never met the director, or any member of the crew at all for that matter. We had all been too busy for the past month memorizing our lines, rehearsing and just generally being stoked about working on our first feature film to have noticed. "Actually," Ray began, rubbing his hands together, "that's what I was getting ready to talk to you guys about. I have kind of a surprise for you. There is no director." We gawked at him, confused. "What do you mean there's no director?" Tyrese asked with a raised eyebrow. "Well, it's kind of complex, but I'll try to explain it to you. You see, one of the things I'm trying to do with this production is create something kind of avant-garde and minimalist. I'm trying to make a film with a real organic, spontaneous flow to the action. Kind of a cinema verite type thing. I don't want my cast to feel impeded or distracted by a noisy film crew or intimidated by some demanding film director. So hence, there will be no film crew or director. Make sense? Actually, what he had just told us didn't make much sense at all. So if there's no director, how the hell are we going to make a movie? Matt asked. Ray snapped his fingers and pointed to her. That was the next point I was going to get to. You see, CCTV cameras have been installed throughout the lodge in the areas where you will be filming. They're already running and are equipped with night vision to allow for shooting in the dark. He went to the SUV and retrieved a stack of folders, handing one to each of us. I flipped through mine. It contained a map of the interior of the lodge with certain areas outlined in different colors and a key at the bottom explaining which scenes would be filmed in each of the different locations, with the scene numbers highlighted in the color that correlated to that location, plus X's showing where our marks were in each of the rooms, with our initials beside them. There was also a scene list and a shooting schedule breaking down the action day by day, plus a key to the room I had been assigned as my private accommodations during our stay. You see, Ray continued as we looked through our folders, it's already set up and ready to go for you. All you have to do is follow the script, say your lines, and Viola. We have a finished film. And feel free to be spontaneous and improvise. When this is done there should be plenty of footage we can edit down into a decent picture. So you see, in a way, you're the directors. You're sort of charting your own course in a way. He paused for a moment. Being the professionals I trust that you are, I'm sure you've memorized the script. But in case you haven't, I have provided you each with a spare copy you will find in your rooms. Wait a minute, I interjected, if there isn't going to be a crew, what's the deal with the RV? I pointed to the black RV that was parked behind Ray's SUV. No one had gotten out of it in the whole time we had been there. I tried peering in through the windshield to see the driver but the glass was tinted dark. Oh, that's my equipment technician, Ray explained. You won't be meeting him. He'll be monitoring your footage and doing any necessary repairs that are required. He has orders to remain in the RV at all times unless there's a problem and one of the cameras break down. Ray paused for a second, and his face seemed to darken slightly, become more serious. His voice was authoritative. All right. You all signed your agreements, so you know what's expected of you now. Please hand me all of your phones, tablets, whatever else you have. Your property will be returned to you after filming has wrapped. He waited. We looked at each other, and I could tell we were all extremely reluctant to do this, even though we had known it was coming. But he was right. We had signed a legally binding contract. Apprehensively, we all took out our phones and other devices and handed them over to Ray. His casual, upbeat demeanor returned as soon as he had them deposited safely inside his coat pocket. He smiled at us. Good. You'll each find a new phone waiting for you in your rooms you can record with. Well, I guess this is where I bid you all adieu. You all know what to do, so. Wait a minute. Marie interrupted, sounding alarmed. You mean you're leaving? Well, yes. I do have a rather busy schedule, you know. I have to tend to some other business in the city. So you're just going to leave us alone up here? Timothy asked. You're all big kids. I think you can take care of yourselves. Don't worry, guys, this place is stocked with plenty of food and anything else you might require. He grinned. Hell, think of this as a vacation away from prying eyes and the stress of the city. You guys can go nuts up here, in your free time, of course, and provided you don't damage any of the lodge's property. But what if something happens? What if we need to get in touch with somebody if there's an emergency? Seth asked, concerned. Ray pointed to the RV. My technician has his own phone. In the event that something serious does arise, just knock on the RV and he'll handle it. His face and voice suddenly turned stern. But don't bother him otherwise. Just pretend he is not there. He glanced at his Rolex and sighed. Well, it's getting late. I'd better get going. I'll stop back by in a few days to check in. And review your work. Good luck to each of you. And don't let me down. And with that, he got into the SUV and started the engine. The idling limousine pulled out ahead of him, Ray following right behind it. The six of us watched as both vehicles made their way down the driveway and started down the long, winding road that led down through the mountains. Then we were alone. Except for Ray's mysterious equipment technician still hidden from our eyes inside the RV. The only sound was the wind blowing through the snowy, rocky landscape around us. We looked at each other, all troubled, and even a little afraid. What had we gotten ourselves into? Thanks for watching. Please do like, share, comment and subscribe for more videos.